Okay, for the next activity in this class, we're going to work on developing a year-round forage supply. We're going to change this up a little bit in this class. We're going to actually have you do some group work. And I know it's online. How do I do group work online? Well, what I've done here is I've created a discussion board. In that discussion board, we divided the class into small groups. So there's 3 or 4 or 5 people in your group. And what you're going to do is go through this year-round forage supply spreadsheet that we've developed here and fill that out. And I'll show that here in just a minute. You're going to complete that on your own, kind of as a first draft. Then go into the discussion board in the same area and share it. And then other classmates, 3 or 4 of them, will come in and share theirs. Take a look at what they have. Take a look at what you have. Make some comments back and forth in your team there as you're working on this. And then once you come to kind of consensus of this is where I want to go with my numbers, submit that as your assignment, and that'll basically be the response. So get a chance to get a first draft, get a chance to see what everybody else has done. The goal of this project is to feed as many animals as possible on the limited amount of acres that you have as you work through this. The team that actually has the greatest amount of animals fed properly, okay, and met their needs, then we're going to actually give 5 points extra credit to on that assignment. So the posting's worth 10 points, assignment's worth 10 points, 5 points extra credit. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here, and I'm going to share our screen on year-round forage supply. That spreadsheet will come up in just a second if it hasn't already. This is the spreadsheet you're going to work with. And what you'll have basically is blank when you start out with. I put some numbers in here. These are not the same numbers as you find in your assignment. But I'm just saying, let's have 50 beef cows. Well, if I have 50 beef cows, they have an animal unit factor of 1. Well, where do I come up with that 1? That's from PN 1771. If you watched the video lecture, which you should have before you got to this, you would notice that on there. Let me see if I can find that pamphlet here. Anyway, I'll stop with that. You go in that PM 1771, you'll see the cows in there. They come up at Animal Unit 1.0. We're going to need a couple bulls for that herd, so I've got 2 of those. And you go to that table, and there you'll find they're at 1.5. So if you're not sure where I'm going, just go to the table and you'll find the numbers and hopefully understand that part. Replacement heifer calves are not actually, so we've got a herd here. Now look at the first 2 lines. We'll take care of that. So those 50 cows are going to need 1 animal unit every month that they're alive, all the way from January to February. I got to feed them. Same thing with those bulls. I'm going to need them year-round unless I buy and sell them every year or I'm releasing a bull, which is a real possibility. But in this case, we're going to say we own both these bulls. So between those 2 sets of animals, we have 53 animal units. Now, we don't do pounds with pasture. We don't tons with pasture. We just figure how many animal units it can support. Well, we're also going to keep some replacements back, and we're selling these calves off all in October. We're just a feeder calf operation, but we do want to keep about 10% back. So I put it at 2.5, at 5 animals there. Heifer calves, and that's not in your chart, by the way, on PM 1771. But if I look up elsewhere, heifer calves are going to be about half a unit as we look at them. So I put that in on the AU factor here as we look at this. Take that times 5 and need 2.5 a month. Well, I'm going to need them in November, December, January, February, and March. Now, when they're March now, they were born in April, so now they become yearlings. Well, yearlings actually use 0.7 animal units, so I'm going to convert them to yearlings. Well, I'm going to have those yearlings. They're going to come all the way around it. They're going to be bred, come into the herd, and up here, they're going to come around and be through here all year round. Okay, so we have yearlings all year round that we're raising because they're bred here and brought into the herd. And excuse me, I gotta think about that. They're not actually going to be year round because I'm going to click that off there. What I just did, and I just realized that, so my correction on this is they're going to become yearlings in the spring. Once you get to October and come in November, you're calling out basically 5 cows and moving these yearlings into that cow herd. So we're going to call them up to here from there. So through here they're calves, then they become yearlings, and up into here, and now they move and become cows up in here as we look at it in November. So that's how that's going to fill out with our animals. Again, you're going to have different numbers in the practice you're working with. Now we're coming down here to our feed. And this is what we're feeding. And you can come over here, and you actually have a drop down here to pick the different feeds. And we're just going to say right now we got 100 acres of just old bluegrass growing out there. It's been there forever. It's a good stand-up bluegrass. It does well for it. We've got 100 acres out there. That 100 acres is going to have 200 total animal units, and it's not going to have any in January, February, March, or April, but May it's going to start having about 6/10 of an animal unit per acre as we're looking. Now, where did that numbers come from? That comes from table 3 here, which is this next tab. That's also on PM 1771 if you want to look it up there. But it's just going to grab the numbers from this table, okay, and automatically stick them in where they go here. And you notice we get into the later summer, that pasture starts drying up, and we're going to get less feed there. We also got some alfalfa hay, about 50 acres, and then I've got some corn stalks on this farm, about 110. So I've got 260 acres on this farm total. The corn stalks, the alfalfa hay, I can stockpile that and feed that when necessary. That stockpile is going to come down here, so I have 454 units of stockpile stuff to feed them whenever they're short. Well, if I come to the bottom of the spreadsheet, I notice I'm short coming here in July by 26.5. So I'm going to use some of that hay that I've got sitting out there because I've got 154 units of hay and corn stalks if I had any, but I got to use hay here at least this time. Well, let's start with the corn stalks here. Let's come into October, November when we have corn stalks available. So I've got corn stalks starting in November, so I'm going to use, I'm short 55 there, so I'm going to use 55. I can come up just a hair short. Oops, I should just do that. 55. I'm still a half short. That's acceptable. I can be about 5% less than what I need, maybe 10% over as you're doing it, trying to balance these. Put another 55 in here. Used 110 so far. Keep in mind up at top here, I've got 300 total, or excuse me, 150 total corn stalks. I'm going to need another 55 here. So I'm going to use up corn stalks. Obviously, I must have a bale or stack them if they're still going to be available in January, February, because we've got snow cover, they're not going to get anything. So I would assume I've been out there and made some round bales that they can get at and use with that. I had 165. That essentially used all my corn stalks, in fact, more than I had. So I'm going to kind of back off and say 45. Oops, sorry about that. So that's 155, 154, and close. Now I've got to start feeding hay, okay, because I've used up all my corn stalks. I got a total of 300 on the hay, so I'm going to put in 55 hay here. 55 hay here. Still need 55. Well, let's go 56 here for hay. Actually, I have to go 55 again. We'll just come up a little bit short each time as we're looking at it. We're at 320. Got 454 over here. Coming over here, I've still got some hay left, so I can feed my hay to meet up my need there. Add another, 26 there for hay. 36 here for hay. And we got 382 we've used so far over here. So we can put another 36 in here. And we're 418. We can put 46 in here. And we're at 464, so we cannot put 46. We can only put 36 in because we've used up all the hay that we have. And as we look at it, okay, we got 454 there, 454 there, but we're still coming up 10 units short. Well, one of the things we can do is, and I see the note here, it says C note down here, if I have a pasture surplus in any given time, I can come and add that to the next month. So I could actually take this 3.5 extra. That'll carry over for a month, so I'm going to put it in there. Whoops, sorry. Now I've got 7 extra this month, so I don't really need 26 here because 7's going to come from there, okay, as we look at it. So I can take 7 off of there. Again, I only need to put in 19 there now, and then I'm going to be able to carry over, well, more to the next month. So that's kind of how you work through that. I'm not going to go into balancing everything out here right now as we look at that. So that carryover looked like I carried that over to that one. Well, let's see. Okay, we got to do this minute. 36 plus 7 is going to be 44. Again, we have carryover, so now I can add that 17.5 to that, so I'm 40, 50, let's just go 52. Got a little bit there. I can add that over, so we're at 40. Let's go 50, carrying over there. Still got 13.5, so I can put 13.5 in there. That's carried over from the previous month, so I can move those. A little confusing, but as I add those numbers together, what's carried over plus what I add for hay, I can move things over, and it looks like hay. Now I'm going to be fine. Actually, this one should have been higher than that. Sorry about that. 23.5. Hate when I do that. Don't hit the enter key. Up 33.5 as we work through it. Still 43.5. Now we're pretty close as we look at it. And I'll end up coming up with enough feed here as we look at it, and we use those carryovers to help balance things out and work across there. So I do have enough feed, but you know, rather than baling hay, is there some way I can get by and put some of this alfalfa hay into my corn or even soybeans? Well, if I change this unimproved bluegrass to bluegrass plus nitrogen or a legume, you can see now I've got excesses down here, so I can rebalance these numbers. But even if I have excesses now, I can come up here and increase my number of cattle. And the idea is to get as many cattle up there that you can feed on this farm as possible. So it's a spreadsheet that's going to take a lot of time of trial and error. Get your original numbers in there, come back and change these numbers, and then your sheet's going to work out fine. With that, your situation, and at the other handout you're going to pull down now is your situation. I'm going to stop share and see if I can share the other worksheet here. Here we go. If I share this worksheet now, this worksheet here is what you're being given as a situation. You're working with 200 acres now, pasture, 3-acre land at cultivation, and then a bunch of wasteland that you just can't do anything with. That pasture is unimproved bluegrass, like I gave you example. You got 200 acres harvested for grain. Corn stalks grazed in the fall, 75 acres of hay, and then 25 acres of legume new seeding that are in that situation, which I didn't include in my example, but obviously you're going to have new seeding. You're running with 100 beef cows, 90% calf crop. I think that's kind of the same I was going with on mine. Actually, I didn't even have the calves listed in there because they're fed on their cows as we look at it. Livestock turned out on pasture May 1, grazed through the month of October. Corn stalks, hay fed as needed. Some certain minimum required there, so make sure you read that as you work through that. Then develop a forage supply with that as you go down. Again, some rules here. The Excel sheet is provided. Gives you some idea what you're going to work through. Again, work with this. Put some numbers together. Work with your classmates. It's kind of a little bit of a confusing assignment. It's kind of a complicated assignment, but it's really a neat activity. And again, I want you to get some feedback from your classmates, so make sure you submit it in the discussion board as well as everywhere else. Hope this video has helped explain it a little bit. Again, ask me questions if you're not exactly sure what's going on here.